I also want to consider how masking relates to speech audiometry. There are of course, times in which masking may be required, in which masking noise needs to be presented to the non-test ear to assure that the test ear is the ear that's responding. So here I have an audiogram, and I want to consider the right ear first. And let's say we're testing word recognition, the super threshold measure of word rec in the right ear. If I looked at my pure tone average, we have 40, 30, and 25 decibels hearing level across those three frequencies needed for PTA. If we average them, that would come out to just above 30 decibels. So let's round down. Remember, we don't, in clinical audiology, we always go on the basis of 5 dB increments. So let's assume that the speech recognition threshold was 30 dB HL, which would be aligned with the pure tone average that I receive here. And I'm going to present the word recognition test at 40 dB SL. So if my SRT, which I'm just estimating here on the basis of PTA, was 30 dB HL, and I presented the test at a 40 dB SL level, that would be 70 dB HL. Now, if I present the speech, the broadband speech signal at 70 dB HL, let's say I presented it with insert phones, what would the crossover be? Well, we take the presentation level, which is 70 dB HL, minus 70 dB, which is the intraoral attenuation of insert earphones, and that would mean that 0 decibels of hearing level were crossing over. Now, is that being heard by the non-test ear? Well, what BC threshold of the non-test ear are we going to consider? We're dealing with speech, which, as we talked about, is a broadband signal. So we're going to look at what the best BC threshold of the non-test ear, which is the left ear in this case, was. Here there's less than a 15 dB airbone gap, so we'll assume that these unmasked thresholds are from the left ear. Here are the masked thresholds from the left ear. None of them are at none of these frequencies does the left ear have a BC threshold of 0 dB or better. So I could assume that there is not cross-hearing of the signal in this case. However, what if I were to use supraoral phones? Again, I presented the signal at 70 dB HL. The intraoral attenuation with supraoral earphones, you'll remember, is 40 dB HL. So that means the crossover, the level of crossover, would be 30 dB HL. Now, most certainly there is likely cross-hearing here because the thresholds, bone conduction thresholds of the left non-test ear, the best threshold that I have is 5 dB HL. So that means that given that level of crossover, the non-test ear would be, the bone conduction thresholds, the cochlea of the non-test ear would be receiving that signal at a plus 25 dB SL. So we would certainly need to mask the non-test ear. Now remember, masking happens via air conduction, so we'd have to put speech noise in the non-test ear to elevate the threshold such that it doesn't participate in word recognition delivered to the right ear.